Hello and welcome to another brief tutorial on Lionhearts. My name is Colton. I am the director and founder of the Lionhearts project and of Credenzio Studios. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the inventory system, how you can equip weapons and tools, and how you can start learning how our inventory actually works. You can see here our HUD is very minimalistic. We don't actually show anything if it's not necessary. For example, if I move, my compass will come up. But if I'm not moving, there's no reason to have that screen clutter. We want to show you the beautiful world that we've created, and so we only show HUD when it's necessary. That can be a little confusing to new players, so I'm going to explain how exactly our inventory works as it's a part of our UI systems. If you put your mouse on the bottom, you can see several different shortcuts. We have the XP, we have the factions, we have the inventory, the map, and the settings. Today, of course, we're going to be going into inventory. I just click this button here, or I can use the hotkey, which currently is R, but it changes and eventually will be customizable, so keep an eye on that. And you can always check the settings and controls to see what the current hotkeys are. So now that I have my inventory open, you can see I have numerous amount of tool slots and then a bunch of buttons in here, which you can see kind of confusing. These are basically just different ways to sort our inventory. If I don't click anything, it shows everything I have in my inventory, and then I can sort it. I want to see what my tools are. I want to see what materials I'm carrying. I want to see what consumables I have, right? And then they even have subcategories, whether it's melee weapons, shields, ranged, tools, all those different things are separated into different categories. Now we can see, again, as I pointed out, bottom left side, we have 5 different tool slots. You can only be holding 5 different tools at the same time. Now you can have more in your inventory. As you can see, I actually have a ton of excess weight in mining tools that I could probably throw into storage because I can only hold up to 180 pounds of storage. After that, I start to slow down. This is a balancing reason. We don't want people carrying a ton of different weapons into battle. It's just too overpowered. We want people to forced to be bringing a single weapon type or 2 into a battle so that they can be countered and not somebody can't just come in with a million tonics in every single weapon type. You have to be selective. So, for example, I am using a steel greatsword. I'm just going to go ahead and unequip this. Now, if I go to tools, I can see it's right here. It'll tell me I can equip primary. I can only equip this to my first slot. That's why it says primary. It won't go in the second, third, fourth, or fifth. Only the first slot. I can equip it. Things that are two-handed melee weapons always go in the first slot only. So, for example, I also have this bronze or cynical bronze war mace. That can't go in the second slot, it's only the first. So I can have a bronze war mace or a two-handed sword equipped at once, but neither at the same time. So I have to be selective on what I want. The second slot is for secondary items. This includes something like a one-handed sword. It could be secondary or primary. That just depends on what you prefer. A dagger is a secondary item. So those things are one-handed melee weapons. So for example, I could actually have a two-handed sword and a short sword equipped at the same time because one is a primary and one is a primary / secondary. However, I haven't seen that many times, and it's something that you just have to look at and decide, okay, we want to do this or we don't, depending on what your preferences are as you kind of establish yourself in the current meta. If you look at the date of this video, there's a very good chance that we might have switched some of these tool things or that the combat balance has been changed. This is a game still in beta, so check the video date. The older it is, the more likely it is to be a little outdated. Number 2, again, secondary. Now 3, this is for archers or shieldsmen only. Okay, so you can have a shield if you have a one-handed sword in the primary, but if you have a two-handed sword or a two-handed club or mace or battle axe, you cannot have a shield. Similarly, you cannot have a shield and the bow at the same time. They both take up that third slot. This is, again, a balancing issue. We don't want people with bows and shields. They're supposed to be counters to one another and other things in the game. For example, steel greatsword is a good shield counter generally. However, it is terrible against arrows because you are unprotected. And so this establishes a meta where somebody with an arrow and a bow can counter a two-handed swordsman, whereas a shieldsman actually counters the bow. Now, the two-handed swordsman counters the shield, so you have a triangle of balance. And this allows for interesting things to come up in the meta. Number 4, this is for tools, specifically mining tools. You can see I actually have a torch right now, which will light up different areas, and it's very easy to craft. I will do a crafting tutorial in another video. Make sure to check that out. I also have a hatchet or a pickaxe. These are used to harvest in-world materials, which can be used to make better weapons, build different things, such as eventually it'll be used to build wagons or ships, or to make ingots, and these help make weapons. Now, a little bit further deep into the inventory system, you can actually inspect each item. Each item has 3 categories if it's a weapon, typically: piercing damage, damage, and durability. Piercing damage is how much damage it will do to the block defense meter. The block defense meter is essentially this thing right here. It allows you to block attacks. So for example, I'm using a war mace. If I use this enough, somebody keeps blocking, they can't block forever. Eventually their block meter will run out and they will be stunned. This is a perfect opportunity for me to land another attack. So piercing damage determines how much damage I do to my opponent's block defense. So you can see the bronze war mace, even though this is an arsenical bronze war mace, which is lower tier, its piercing damage is actually quite good. So this is another way we can balance weapons. So not all heavy weapons are created the same. Some are heavier in pure damage, and some are heavier in piercing damage. It just depends on what you want to do. For example, a warhammer has a very high piercing damage right now. Again, this changes with what the balancing team decides. So if you're going up against a shield, a warhammer is very good, but it's slow, it's clunky. So if you go up against somebody with a two-handed sword or a greatsword, this is a counter to a war mace or a warhammer, and they can just outrange you and basically outdamage you because they're slightly quicker. The durability is basically something that gets taken away every time you do damage or every time you block. So eventually your weapon will get worn down and you can repair it. The better the weapon, the more durability it has. For example, cast Damascus has insanely high durability, whereas arsenical bronze is fairly low. And as far as tools go, they also have a durability option, but they don't have piercing damage and damage, obviously, because they're not used for combat. Outside of this, in the inventory menu, we also have an ability to toggle our helmet, which can also be done by clicking the button C. Again, these hotkeys are subject to change. And you can see a little description about the item. The weight it causes in your inventory. For example, you can see the bronze war mace is 33 pounds, whereas the pickaxe is only 10. This is a balance thing, and the steel greatsword is actually heavier than the bronze war mace, just more balanced stuff. You can also see the durability in the corner here. The rarity, which is basically a synopsis, it's like 1 to 8. How rare, how valuable is this item? You can also see it in the corner. All these are just available in the corner here. The inventory is also a place you can change outfits. Right now I don't have any. I'm not in a faction. I don't own any. But if I did, I would see the outfits here. I can equip them very quickly and easy. And lastly, the PvP toggle. I can click this on. When I click PvP toggle on, it says, hey, I want a PvP. I'll be less likely to take honor damage, which is another system, which we'll explain in another video. But just so you know, the PV toggle is here. I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to overwhelm any new players. I hope you're enjoying our game if you're playing it. If not, please check our game out. We've all worked extremely hard on this. There's plenty of supplementary tutorial videos in the playlist if you want to keep watching and learning more about our game. Thanks for watching, guys. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that tutorial video for Lionhearts Crusade. If you did, please subscribe so you can get updated when more tutorial videos appear or other Lionhearts content. If you haven't already, please consider liking the video and donating to our Patreon. We are an independent indie dev game studio. We rely on patrons and support from people like you who play our game to really keep our company running. So please consider donating to our Patreon in the link below. Otherwise, guys, there's other tutorial videos in the playlist. Hope that you enjoyed this one, and please do feel free to check the other ones out.